So there's this movie called Obsession. You've probably seen it or at least seen everyone talking about it. It made $26 million in its third weekend in theaters. More than it made in its second weekend. More than it made in its first weekend. 3 weeks in a row, the number went up. That doesn't happen. Like studios build their entire release models around the assumption that it won't happen. You open big, you spend everything on marketing that first weekend, and then you accept the decline. That's just how movies work. Except this one didn't do that. And the guy who made it was uploading sketch comedy to YouTube 2 years ago. So let's actually talk about how this happened. Because the movie is good, sure, but that's not why the numbers look like this. The numbers look like this because of decisions that were made years before anyone had ever heard of Obsession. Okay, so Curry Barker. He's 26, he's from Alabama, and him and his friend Cooper Tomlinson have been making stuff together for years. They run a sketch comedy channel called That's a Bad Idea. That's the actual name. And if you've seen any of their stuff, it's exactly what it sounds like. Low budget, kind of unhinged, very funny, very online. The kind of content that doesn't have a pitch deck behind it. They were just filming things and putting them on the internet because that's what you do when you want to make things and nobody's going to give you money to do it. And that matters. Because what Curry Barker was actually doing during those years wasn't just making content. He was learning how to direct. He was learning what makes an audience uncomfortable in a good way. He was learning the difference between a joke that lands and one that doesn't, which is actually the same skill as knowing when a horror beat lands and when it doesn't. Comedy and horror are the same genre with different packaging. The setup, the tension, the release. Jordan Peele figured that out. The Philippou brothers figured that out. Curry Barker figured that out making YouTube videos with his friend for basically no money. And then in 2024 he made milk and cereal. Budget was $800. Not $800,000. $800. He wrote it, directed it, starred in it, edited it, and scored it. It's a found footage horror film about two YouTube pranksters whose bit goes very, very wrong. He spent 4 months making it. Then he tried to find a distributor. Nobody wanted it. So he uploaded the whole thing to YouTube for free. And then Variety put it on their best horror films of 2024 list. Next to The Substance. Next to Nosferatu. An $800 YouTube video sitting next to two of the most talked about theatrical releases of the year. That's not a compliment. That's a signal. And the people paying attention to signals in Hollywood started paying attention to Curry Barker. So now he has some credibility. Not money, not a deal, not an agent calling him. Just credibility. And he uses it to make Obsession. $750,000 budget. Shot in 20 days. The premise came from a Simpsons episode. Specifically the one where Bart gets a monkey paw that grants wishes but every wish makes things worse. Curry said the idea was basically, what if the wish just worked? No cosmic punishment, no twist where it backfires immediately. What if the guy got exactly what he asked for and that was the horror? So the movie follows Bear, a music store employee who's been in love with his co-worker Nikki forever. He finds this thing called a one-wish willow at an antique store. You break it, your wish is granted. He wishes for Nikki to fall in love with him. And she does. And then everything gets extremely bad. Not because magic is evil. Because he didn't think about what he was actually asking for. Which is one of those premises that sounds simple until you sit with it for a second and realize it's about something real. The reviews called it a horror movie and a love story and a tragedy. Critics said it made them think about whether they were a good person. It has a 94% on Rotten Tomatoes. From both critics and audiences, which almost never align like that. He took it to TIFF in September 2025. The Toronto International Film Festival. Midnight Madness Block, which is where they program the horror and the weird and the stuff that gets a reaction out of a room. It got a standing ovation. And then the bidding war started. A24 wanted it. Neon wanted it. Focus Features won. The number, somewhere between $14 and $15 million. For a movie that cost $750,000 to make. Let's just be clear about what that means. Before a single ticket was sold, before a single trailer was cut, before a single person outside of a film festival had seen it, someone looked at this movie and said it's worth 20 times what it cost to produce just for the right to put it in theaters. That's not a distribution deal. That's a confidence vote. Now why did Focus win over A24 and Neon? Because here's the thing about A24 and Neon. They are genuinely the cool studios. The ones with the aesthetic. The ones Gen Z actually talks about. A24 has built an entire brand identity around being the place where interesting things happen. Neon had Parasite. They had Saltburn. They know how to market to exactly the audience that was going to care about Obsession. And they both lost. They lost because Focus Features is owned by Universal. And Universal has one of the biggest international distribution networks on the planet. More screens. More territories. More infrastructure. When you're acquiring a movie with this kind of word-of-mouth potential, the question isn't just, can we market it? The question is, how many people can we physically get it in front of? And the answer at Universal is, a lot more than A24. So the acquisition itself was an infrastructure decision. The better machine won the bid. Not the cooler one. Opening weekend was $17.2 million domestically. Projections had it at $9 to $12 million. It beat the high end by over 40%. Which already would have been a great story. And then week 2 happened. Memorial Day weekend. $23.9 million. Up 39% over opening weekend. Jason Blum went on X and posted that Obsession is the only wide-release horror film on record to grow in its second weekend at this scale. Jason Blum. The guy who basically invented the modern micro-budget horror model. Paranormal Activity. Get Out. The Invisible Man, Halloween. The guy who has been doing this longer than most people in this audience have been alive is saying this one broke the benchmark. Week 3. $26.4 million. Still going up. 10% increase over week 2. 3 consecutive weekends of growth in more than 2,500 theaters. That is not supposed to happen. So how did it happen? Word of mouth, yes, but that's a non-answer. Word of mouth is just the symptom. The actual question is, why were people so compelled to tell other people about this movie specifically? Part of it is the film itself. It's genuinely good and it hits on something emotionally real. But the other part is that Curry Barker already had an audience that was primed to evangelize for him. He'd been building that audience for years. Not a huge audience. 1.2 million subscribers on YouTube isn't ninja numbers. But it's a concentrated audience. People who have been watching him figure things out in public. People who saw Milk and Cereal and told their friends. People who already had a relationship with his work before Obsession existed. When the movie came out, those people didn't just go see it. They went opening weekend. They posted about it. They dragged their friends. And those friends posted about it. And that's how a $17 million opening becomes a $23 million second weekend becomes a $26 million third weekend. The growth wasn't random. It was the result of an audience that had been built and maintained for years before the product existed. That's the actual business model here. And it's the same model that works everywhere right now. The creator builds the audience first. The audience funds the product by showing up. The product becomes proof of concept for the next, bigger thing. Milk and Cereal cost $800 and went on Variety's Best of the Year list. That's proof of concept. Obsession cost $750,000 and made $148 million worldwide. That's product launch. Whatever comes next for Curry Barker is going to be made with real money and real infrastructure behind it. His next film, Anything But Ghosts, already has Blumhouse and Roy Lee attached. And A24, the studio that lost the Obsession bidding war, immediately handed him the keys to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. You lose the deal, you sign the director. Because the director is the asset now. The number that keeps getting me is $800. Not because it's impressive that he made something good for $800. But because he didn't have to make it at all. He had no distribution deal. No guarantee anyone would see it. He made it anyway, put it on YouTube for free, and let it find its audience on its own. And that decision, that one decision to just put it out there and not wait for permission, is the reason the next number is $750,000. And the reason after that is $15 million. And the reason after that is $148 million. He almost uploaded Obsession to YouTube for free too. He said that in an interview. He just kind of assumed that's what you do when you make something. You put it on the internet. The idea of a studio bidding war wasn't in his mental model yet. Which is either the funniest thing about this whole story or the most important thing. Depending on how you look at it. $800. $750,000. $15 million. $148 million. That's the arc, 4 numbers. Each one only exists because of the one before it. And the first one happened because a guy in Alabama decided to make a horror movie with his friend and no money and just see what happened.